Okay. Hi and welcome everyone. Afternoon tea with Shawn Bradbury and myself, Niyati Patel. Welcome to our June episode. We are looking at start of summer here in the US, and in some other parts of the world, you're at the end of your summer or probably starting your winter. But this is that time of the year when school either starts, ends, there's this new year in progress, and it's a lot of time for changes. And Shawn and I here started talking about how does that feel for us as parents and caregivers? What is that season bringing for us in our lives uh, in relation to our children? And to back up just a bit, so Shawn works with middle-aged men and coming into owning their own power in their relationships and in themselves. And myself, I'm Niyati Patel, and I'm the founder of Nimble Futures and the host of this afternoon tea podcast, or the conversations as we like to call them. And I work with families to keep the ongoing bonds of love and relationship in rearing kids to be beyond the stresses and everyday concerns that we run into so that we can really celebrate our bonds over time and grow with them. So we appreciate your being here. Shawn,
Yes.
what would you say this time of transition or time of change of school year? And especially for you with
Hmm.
your daughter graduating high school,
Right.
how does this feel? What are your thoughts on it?
It's those milestones that you think about, you talk about, but when they actually hit, you're like, wow, what happened to the time, right? So my daughter, when she started her freshman year in high school, wrote a letter to her future self. And then 4 years later, she's handed that letter and she opens it up and she reads it. So to think that 4 years have gone by is really mind blowing, truthfully. You think about that freshman year, that first going in there and just getting your feet wet and meeting people and stuff. And then just the time just flies by, and all of a sudden you're a sophomore, junior, senior, and then we're at graduation. And even for myself, at the end of June, I've been in a 2 year program that's ending. So I'm like, it's my own little graduation too. And I'm kind of like, it's my own little transition to what am I going to do when this ends? So it's interesting how quickly time truly goes by, and that you think that you're ready for the milestones and you try to get as prepared as possible. But I think after they hit, that's when the real reflection hits and the reality of the situation comes in to kind of like, okay, looking at the next steps and everything and how it's going to affect your life.
I have a couple of things I want to really talk for us to talk more about. But your daughter wrote a letter 4 years ago?
Yeah, to our future self.
Wow. And so how did she feel like just from your perspective reading it now?
I think it wasn't too off the mark without getting into any specifics. I'm sure there was differences. I think it's probably good that there's differences because you're going to grow. I mean, you have an idea of what you think it's going to look like in a few years, so it's a good thing to have a baseline or a foundation to grow on, but to know that there's going to be those 4 years that things are going to happen and you're going to learn new things and take a different direction. So I think it was a combination of some of it was accurate and some of it was, oh, look at this. Look all these things I did that I didn't even know I was going to do.
I find that really interesting because um I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should do that too for my own transition. So when I reach that transition phase, um, I don't know, I feel like I have the support of my previous self.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept to do that. And yeah, I think it was a cool thing for her teachers to do.
And there was so many other things that you said I find of so much value that when transition actually hits. So, I mean, even as a parent in our journey, um, we're waiting for well, just to get pregnant, or now that you're pregnant for the baby to arrive, or waiting for that next thing. Um, Baby has arrived and baby's always in my arms. Then the baby doesn't want to be in my arms all the time. Um, Baby goes to school, college, kindergarten,
Yeah.
plays with friends. There's all these stages. And when they arrive, I mean, we want those to happen.
Mhm.
But we're equally feeling unprepared, no matter how prepared we try to be. And that's like you said, when the milestone hits, you still have to live through it. That's when you really start to look at, what am I going to do here? And so it's a very lived experience. It's an embodied experience of moving through transition. And parents, I find that the journey of parenting is filled with living through that.
Yeah.
And that makes taking on the role of being a parent so much more enriched.
I got to tell you, Nidhi, if I stop and think about that, I've been a parent and I've had been a caregiver for someone for 18 years. It's actually mind-boggling. It just kind of like, from infancy, and Erin's adopted, and we got her from when we were in Arizona. So even that milestone was not atypical. I was not in a hospital. It's like I'm waiting in a hotel, waiting for someone to drive up to hand me my child.
Mm.
So to think that I got her, me and her mom, got her and cared for her, and then get her to this point is, I was 40 when we adopted her.
Mm.
And so like when she's 20, I'll be 60, so it's like, wow, you know, but there's definitely a pride to that, as well as looking back and knowing that you didn't do everything right, that you made mistakes and everything. Um, but knowing that, there was trial and error, that you were there. And one thing I will say, that I do feel like I was present a lot of the time. So looking back at it, even though time goes by quickly and everything, I do feel very honored and blessed to say that I was really present for most of it when I could be.
And that feeling of pride and contentment, thank you for sharing that. A lot of parents, you know, I just want you to see that. That's an important feeling for you to have, and you should own it. Be proud of being parents, because the contentment that I sense in what you're saying, Shawn, and in what I have seen for myself, when our kids are doing well, they are thriving, or they're able to make the decisions that they need to make for themselves, or when they can navigate their emotions or the circumstances they face with within their own capacities and resources, and tap into those, the contentment that comes for me, or for you, Shawn, or for us as parents, those of you who are listening, it's the most immense feeling. It's just the most satisfying. It's not something that I get out of it. I'm not going to get anything. They're navigating their life, but it's just the beauty of having contributed to another life. And most of us, I mean, if we look at the world around us, people are lost, looking for love, looking for recognition, looking for just an acknowledgement, a smile, a hug, and just being present for our kids and having given them that sense of belonging. It's such a huge contribution. And then I feel that, parents, please take pride in what you do. This is the most beautiful thing that you offer to the world right now, especially, but even in general.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on many episodes, giving yourself grace, because you're going to fall, you're going to fail, you're going to do things you're going to regret, but just learn from the lessons and trust your intuition, because not everyone's going to have the same opinion as you do. People are going to give their opinions, and, oh, I did this with you, and this is how so and so did it, but you got to go with how it feels. How does it feel to you when you actually implement these things? Are you doing it for someone else's sake because it's tradition or handed down to you, or are you going to do it because you wanted to do it? It's what you need and what your child needs.
Yeah, that intuition part is going to come so in different ways. So when, like, leaving for a job or leaving for an educational trip and leaving your kid behind because you have to go. And I've had those experiences because I've raised kids, and it's hard to leave. And we were talking about milestones. Those are bigger milestones, but this is a smaller kind of something that happens in the moment. It's not as big a milestone, but it's a tough one. And there is an urge to cling, to hold on to what is familiar, to hold on to uh this has felt right because it's been going on for so long, where that could be that I'm staying at home with you as presence, uh, or the other way around, when I would have to go and my parents had a hard time saying goodbyes to me, and like, but I need to go. I need to get out of the nest. I will be back. Nothing's going to happen to our relationship. But again, there's this, and they understood that. There's no question about that. But the feeling of it was wanting to just hold on to what we know. Um, so I think what I'm getting at is that there is the intuition of trusting how to go about it, but there's also in the moment feelings, they come and go, thoughts, opinions, they'll come and go, and you're also kind of in the sea of those waves. Uh, and this is something to reflect upon.
Yeah, I think, especially coming from a parent's point of view, you want to see your kids thrive. You want to see them do all these things. And like, I love seeing the milestones for my daughter because she's on the right track. She has a job, she has a car, a relationship, and all these things. But there is still that thing of a parent being that there's been at 18 years, and now there is this um, starting to be this distance and everything like that, even though it's healthy and you're proud of it. And if you can, just be there for them, and because it's still a new journey for them too. I mean, there'll be days that she's fine and she's gone for the day or 2 days or something, but then she'll come back. And, you know, I think there's this kind of, I don't know, it's like that crazy eight or something, it just kind of goes around, it's just kind of like things happen. I don't need you right now. I got my thing and I'm going to come back. And that's how I was with my parents too. There was times where I probably didn't talk to them for a bit, but there was no reason behind it other than just my life. And it all depends on the relationship that you have with your kids and everything like that, and just being um, open-minded and just and listening too. And we've talked about that on other episodes too.
I feel that the pride that we can own as parents and caregivers for what we are truly trying to do from our hearts, sincerely, not, I don't mean the false kind of pride. Hold on. Yeah, not the false kind of pride, but just the pride in doing something with utmost sincerity in our lives. It offsets the guilt
Mm.
greatly because there's no perfection. We know that. We talk about it. We tell ourselves that too. But we carry that guilt and it has a lot of weight. So again, I want to bring this back to the sense of pride. Hold that space in you. Uh, it'll dissipate a lot of the guilt, and it'll allow for your inner knowing to come forth more easily because you're not doubting yourself. You're not putting yourself down as much. Um, yeah, there's also just like we want to cling to what is familiar, we want to cling to the familiarity of the guilt also. So just something we want to put it out on the plate for you to see if you want to keep it or throw it out. Uh, and
Yeah.
we want to bring this to a wrap, but there's any thoughts to, along these lines, Shawn?
Yeah, with the guilt, to me, the guilt might be telling you that something is not happening and maybe you're doing something wrong. I think it's really more the shame that's the
Mm,
bigger
mm,
monster that we want to be aware of because there is a difference between those two things. One's a doing and then one's a identity.
mm.
So um, just to clear up there, but I just think that there's going to be always milestones in life. We're going to grow, things are going to happen. Just be present for them because there's always something to move forward to, right? There's always something to look forward to. But even with my daughter's graduation, I'm like, let's just be present. This is the best thing I can do for myself, for her, for everybody, is to enjoy the moment because that's all we have is the moment. Because things are constantly going to be changing. So why not be present and enjoy that moment?
That is a good one to close with. Let's enjoy this moment. We would love to hear from you. And thank you for listening in on us. And we'll be back soon next month. Until then, leave us a comment, leave us a like, please subscribe. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.